Hey, this is Michael Lindsay from Vital MX. I'm here with my buddy Cole Tompkins with his 2003 Honda CR250R two-stroke. You've had this thing for quite a while, and I've seen it in a couple different looks. How many times have you gone through, framed, rebuilt this thing? How long have you had it?
I've had it since pretty much COVID, and I've rebuilt it 2 full frame-up rebuilds on it. The first time around was a pretty pricey one, but it ended up becoming a really nice bike, and now we're changing up the look and going a little darker.
Was the intention the typical, oh, I'm going to get a two-stroke to play ride on, it's going to be cheap, or did you know going into it that you were going to dump a bunch of money into it?
I bought it from my buddy. He sold it to me for pretty cheap, and I knew right off the bat, I seen like a lot of the nice CR builds, and I just knew right off the bat, I said, I already had it envisioned. I knew I wanted just to go and spend a lot of money on it.
So what was the biggest challenges when you got it? What was going into it? Something that you thought was easy, but you got a part and you're like, oh man.
Parts, like transmission parts. A lot of transmission parts were worn out in it. And getting like shafts, all the gears, it was a very lengthy time to build. But other than that, everything for the most part, Honda still has lots of all the OEM bearings, all the seals, gaskets. So that side was pretty easy on the motor end.
So you do a lot of bikes on this side. You have a couple different jobs. You work in the Hollywood studios, but I know you mostly build a lot of bikes for people. You do motors. You've been a mechanic for a couple pros and stuff. So I mean, you've got a lot of experience stripping these down. So what's kind of your first go-to when you have a bike like this? I'm guessing you're pretty good at getting everything clean, blasted, the whole 9 yards to make your life a little easier.
Yeah, like my first go around when I did build this, I did everything by hand. I scrubbed the cases by hand. Literally everything was done by hand. But now that I have a couple good people in my corner, like Sano Metal Finishes, Puffer always gets all my stuff vapor blasted and Cerakoted. So he takes a lot of weight off my shoulders and makes it a lot easier on my end for sure.
What are the couple trickiest, most unique parts on this bike you're the most stoked on?
Definitely the brake caliper. The brake caliper to me is really big. The tank, and they come with Showa forks, and I put KYBs on them. So definitely the caliper, the forks, and the tank.
Nice. Forks are still spring forks. Stapes did them all up kit forks for you?
Yes, Clint Stapes over at Stapes Suspension. He did all my shock and forks, and they are spring conventional forks. And
then shocks still show, because of course a KYB shock for one of these, you'd have to do some severe hunting. That would be a rare, insanely rare find.
Oh, definitely. For sure, like the KYB shock, it's definitely something I'd like to get into and buy. Just finding one's been very difficult.
The engine side of it, so I will preface this as something is, Varner did do this. If you're a regular Vital MX, there's been a lot of forum members that have problems with them. So I just have to preface that I'm not a super big supporter. This is your bike though, you're my buddy. I really wanted to shoot this. I think you told me you basically had to sit down there all night to get it done. How does it run?
Varner did a very good job. It's pretty much basic port polish. The V-Force we kind of did a little trick to those, and the exhaust flange. But it's a very just basic stuff that Varner does, and it rips. The bike is an awesome, awesome bike.
What do you think the biggest improvement is from what it was stock-wise to ride it now, the way you built it? Like, what's been is it suspension, motor? When you ride it, what are you the most stoked on?
Honestly, like just from making the bike so fresh, I think honestly, like the whole chassis itself feels like a very tight new bike. But definitely like the motor. The motor just, they're super like dead feel on power, and the bike is just super, it's broad, and it's a 250. It's a standard, there's no big bore, no nothing, and it's a very stout motor. Like the whole power of the whole bike feels really good, and then obviously the suspension is like cherry on top.
Cool. Well, we're gonna put Hayes out on this for a couple laps and get some riding opinions. Thanks for bringing this up for us to test.
Awesome, thank you.
What's up, guys? Jacob Hayes here. Got to come out to Fox Raceway today and check out this 03 CR250. What an incredible machine. I mean, it's 2022, as we all know, about to be 23, but they brought this 03 back to life, put some really cool trick parts on it, and just my first impressions of the motorcycle, I sat on it and I'm like, wow, like, feels pretty comfy. I know it's got a Showa shock and KYB forks, so I was a little nervous to see how that would work on track. Right off the bat, noticed a number of different things. I was really impressed with how the motorcycle laid the power to the ground. I felt like with the carbureted, it was going to be a little flat off the bottom, as most CR250s are a little flat. I was going to have to feather the clutch a lot. But the first initial hit right out of the corner was pretty much instant. And then the shock was a little low, so came in, did some sag readjustment, lifted it up a little bit and went back out, and honestly felt a lot better. So was able to lay some laps down and just have a blast today. I mean, this thing, like I said, is a work of art. It's an 03. It's got a lot of titanium bolts and stuff like that, but just the way the motorcycle laid the power down to the ground, second, third, you could really just kind of pick and choose where you wanted to lay on the motorcycle, and overall it was a fun bike. Ergonomically, the motorcycle felt a little always low in the rear. It feels like you kind of sit low in the cockpit of the motorcycle. The bars seem like they're way up there, and you just kind of can know the chassis flex. Like, the bike feels rigid, so when something does kick you, the whole motorcycle gets upset, to where these new modern day motorcycles, when you go through a bump, like, they're designed to kind of deflect and get right back down to it, to where this thing, if you got a good kick, like, it was like feet off the pegs and then kind of get it calmed back down. But that was probably the biggest thing that I noticed, like on a big G out or something like that. You really feel like you go through all the way through the stroke, and like the whole motorcycle kind of upsets. But overall, just to go out and have fun and cruise some of the outsides and throw some whips on it, it was a great bike. I felt like today I was gonna get on it and I was like, I want to blow all the berms out, but it just felt good in the ruts. Like, I could corner it really good. The suspension, like I said, the Showa shock and the KYB forks, I was a little nervous. But overall, they meshed pretty well together, and it cornered great. Like, it felt nimble. I felt like I could just sit in all the ruts and just get that classic two-stroke and just really kind of feather the clutch. I felt like just my cornering today was phenomenal on this thing, and that's what I had the most fun doing. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up, give us a like, give us a subscribe, leave a comment of what do you want to see next, and we'll see you next time.